Meow, meow, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hi everyone, Cantonese Cat here. This is the Bitcoin chart. You can see that Bitcoin has gone through about a 15% correction from the top to the recent bottom right here, about 15% or so. Um, it's nothing unusual for Bitcoin. It does that in a day. It's not really anything particularly concerning. The bull trend is still intact. If you ask me how far Bitcoin could correct, I don't think anybody's really going to be able to tell you that. It can correct as far down as this weekly Tenkan or even the monthly Tenkan down here around 50K, potentially even over here at 56.5K, and it could still be a very strong bull trend. If you look at the prior cycle, it backtests the Tenkan, the red line here all the time. Like, it's really no big deal. It can still serve as continuation of bullishness here. And if you look over here, even the prior cycle, sometimes they even backtest the Kijun underneath on the weekly here, and it can still be a pretty parabolic bull trend here. This is the weekly chart of Bitcoin over the last 2 weeks. It went down 15%. I'm just trying to show you there's no big deal because it's just a little bit way outside the usual support here, and that makes sense to kind of come down a little bit and to wait for the support to kind of go up a little bit and probably meet somewhere in the middle before its bullish continuation is what I'm seeing here. Again, I don't want you to be scared. This is the monthly chart. Bitcoin still looks very bullish, even though it's starting to put in a little bit of like a shooting star type candle here, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's no bullish continuation. Bitcoin kind of does these, shooting star tops here, and it doesn't necessarily mean anything in the long run once the bull trend gets started. But the whole point is to show you the Bitcoin chart here, even though this video I really wanted to talk about more about Mora, is that over the last 2 weeks, 15%, especially this candle right here of the week, it really went down about like 10% or so. But if you look at Mara, which is, a lot of people are upset that Mara missed that Bitcoin rally over the last few weeks. And it's been correcting pretty brutally over the last couple of weeks. But so far, it's the second day of the week. And so far, we're seeing a little bit of a green candle here. It looks like, if anything, is forming maybe potentially a little bit of a tracer bottom here for the weekly. And it looks like things may be a little bit stabilized. Again, we never really are sure for sure, but it looks like things may be a little bit more stabilized. And if it is, even if Bitcoin corrects down to, like 56.5K or 58K or 57K, a lot of people are speculating that's going to happen. Nobody knows whether or not that's actually going to happen or not. It's always a possibility. But it's also very possible Bitcoin finds this footing here. It just keeps going up. Nobody really knows. There's a FOMC happening this week, so there's going to be a lot of volatility that's expected. But either way, so far it seems like it's kind of a little bit stabilized here, isn't it? And if you are looking at the monthly here, I'm still seeing kind of this pattern where it's trying to break above this kind of horizontal zone. I'm not even going to use any fancy indicators here. It looks like it's trying to break above this kind of horizontal zone that spent a lot of time in 2021. It's trying to break out months number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so far it's not been able to do that, but you see that there's like some slight increase in demand underneath right here, which actually has got a little bit of like a ascending triangle look to it. And these things are generally, bullish. It's trying to eat the supply above, and demand is increasing. So generally these things look a little bit bullish. I'm not even going to put any fancy indicators. Another thing to look at is, hey, low here, this is the bottom. Higher high, higher low, higher high compared to here, right? Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. It's trying to put in a higher low right now, potentially. Could Mara drop back down and break the, make it lower low? I mean, possible, but so far there's no indication that that's the case, right? I mean, so far it seems to be kind of following a little bit of a trend here. So there's no reason to necessarily think that it's going to break down. Although it could, it always can. And if I pull up a couple of indicators here, I'm going to actually pull up the Anchor Volume Profile, which is the volume shelf, and I'm going to just select a volume shelf probably somewhere around here. Boom. You can see that price has spent a pretty significant amount of time over here creating a lot of volume shelf here with a lot of shares being traded hands. over the last few years, all the way from $22 all the way up to maybe about $30. And right now, price is also tradable hands a lot down here too at this range. Um, you know, underneath 18, 19, and all the way down to about 15 or so. And you can see that this level right here served as pretty significant resistance over here. We had a breakout. So far, we're kind of having a back test of this volume shelf level here, which is still pretty bullish price action. It's just been ranging between this volume shelf and this volume shelf down here, between the between 30 and between 15 essentially. It's just been kind of bouncing around for about 3 months. It's been breaking a lot of the supply above. It's trying to absorb all the supply. It looks like it could potentially break out at some point. That's what the chart is looking like it's doing, and this is all probability game. Nobody's really sure, but that's what the volume shelf is kind of telling us. Now, in addition, if you wanted to see whether or not there's any significant level around here, you can do a Fibonacci level here from the cycle top to the cycle bottom. And you can see that so far we've been kind of rejected right here around 0.382 Fibonacci retracement level. And it's kind of got rejected here. It's kind of bounced back down and trying to find support right now. It's kind of hugging the 0.236 level here. This is below it right now, but it looks like it could potentially work its way back above. Maybe even do a little bit of a back test down here before its bullish continuation. I think it's probably going to happen over maybe in the next couple of months or so. It's what is more looking likely is going to happen. They're going to pull up the volume here. There's a little bit of big selling volume over here, but there's also a lot of buying volume here that's kind of picking up. It's been picking up over the last year or so. So I think these buying volume do mean something, even though you do have a significant sell volume here. The month of March, we still have another. I want to say we still have another 8 trading days or so. So the volume could potentially, go up, and this could be another big sell volume month. But regardless, there's a lot of interest here for the stock. There's a lot of volatility here in the stock. And if you're looking at, in terms of what you expect the next move is going to be, one way that I would like to look at it is maybe to pull up the unbalanced volume. And you can see that the volume actually has been, going up steadily here. It's been going up steadily here. I'm trying to look for any kind of bullish diversions, or I'm not really picking that up. I'm trying to look for maybe it did have a little bit of a bearish divergence where price went from here to here up, but you did have a little bit of decline volume, so you did have a little bit of bearish divergence here. Maybe that's why price needed an extra month to kind of cool off before its bullish continuation. But so far, higher high, higher lows. I'm not worried about the trend based on looking at it, as far as I can tell. Now, that was the volume indicator. The other couple of things I wanted to show you too is the Bollinger Band. See what the Bollinger Band is doing. It's still expanding up and down, and the 20-month moving average is still crawling up. So this is technically still a bull trend. As you can see, the 20-month moving average crawling up. Generally, it leads to pretty decent things, despite the fact that it might spend about 3 months sideways for consolidation. Right. So far, so good. Again, I'm not really showing you anything new here. I'm just kind of showing you and give you an update to share with you my thoughts. The current price action hasn't really changed my thoughts at all in terms of longer term trend. Now, in addition to showing you the Bollinger Band, I also want to show you the Ichimoku Cloud. Again, we still had a bullish cost that still hasn't changed. And so far, after 2 days of price action this week, the price is still above the Kijun, which is around 18.6. It's still below the Tenkan. I really like to see it flipping Tenkan back into support again, if at all possible. If we can see that this month, that would be great. And there's no guarantee we might end up going down a little bit further. Who knows? But if we can flip the Tenkan back for resistance support, which is at 20.63, that would be a pretty bullish indication for me to think that there might be some bullish continuation, because the next step after you break this volume shelf, I really think is the Ichimoku Cloud. There's a little bit of Ichimoku Cloud shelf right here, which is in the low 40s. I really think that's probably where the next target is going to go. If we're able to break about this volume shelf, which is spanned about months number 1, 2, 3, and 4 doing, the more it tries, the more likely this resistance above is going to get weaker and weaker. So I like its chances so far. Now, That's going to be the Ichimoku Cloud. And another thing I want to show you is the Black Cat Fund. So far, this is supposed to be an indicator to show you the banker fund, which is basically means like big money. We had a buy signal right here with this big giant green candle. Basically, you have decreasing in outflow over here, and in the month of December, you have starting increase in inflow and decrease in outflow. Outflow is no longer being seen, and you have a green candle over here, which tells you there's an increase in inflow. And so far, it's been confirmed by months number 1, 2, and 3 afterwards. And matter of fact, price went sideways, but inflow goes up. There's a little bit of divergence here. So I think that this inflow divergence with the price going sideways most likely is going to push price on the up and up, is my best guess. If you want to look at the previous thing as to what happened before, again, I talked about this on a previous video. Price went sideways, inflow went up. Next thing you know, exponential price movement upwards. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Nothing's guaranteed, but that's kind of what I'm seeing so far. If it doesn't work out, I'll be in pain with you too, because I just bought more today. That's kind of the setup that I'm seeing here, the monthly. Now I can talk a little bit about the weekly. It's not going to show you too much more. Again, you have a higher high, have a low here, higher high, higher low, higher high with this wick, higher low here. And so far, pretty decent. You did have decrease in the weekly selling volume here, despite this big increase in buying volume over here. It's a little bit of a reverse over here. You have a little bit more of a selling volume over here, which is a little bit worrisome. But so far, it was met with increased buying. It's a pretty impulsive buying volume over here. And it's also met with decrease in volume in terms of selling. So far, it's only been the second week. So far, we're seeing a little bit of a green candle here. We'll see what the week holds. So far, if you look at the bull market support band, it's kind of touching it a little bit. It actually went a little bit below underneath of it. I'm not really that concerned about it because the 20-week moving averages is the red part of this bull market support band here is still pointing up. So most likely it's going to serve as pretty poor resistance. And it can even hover underneath the bull market support band for quite some time as long as the 20-week moving average continues to point up. I'm not really that concerned about it. This whole thing has happened in another stock that I've seen that I've followed for a very long time, Palantir. You can see that again, the price can kind of fall underneath, but as long as the 20-week moving average continues to point up, it can serve as a little bit of resistance, but it's not going to serve as very good resistance because most likely price is going to keep, going along up with it. That's where the trend is going. So I'm not really that concerned about the current setup for Mara. This still looks like a pretty decent setup for me. If you want to also look into see other moving averages, 20 moving average above 50, above 100. This is a full weekly bull trend, and the cross just happened over here between the 50 and 100 to stack this whole weekly bull trend to allow room to potentially even go up a lot higher. Once you really start having the bull trend, price can get pretty explosive afterwards. So those are the moving averages. If you look at the Ichimoku Cloud, that's not really going to tell you too much at this time. The Ichimoku Cloud is just basically going to tell you it's above the cloud. Is try to find support, at the Tenkan and the Kijun is not able to do so. Price went down, but the weekly is not as strong as the monthly. So far, monthly, the Kijun is serving as support over here. Weekly, it kind of broke down, but that's okay. It's not necessarily the end all be all. You can potentially break down here a little bit. And there are other kinds of support as I show you, like the moving averages, the volume shelves. This is not the end all be all, but sometimes it's kind of cool to see price finding support here at the Tenkan or the Kijun, but it's not always going to be the case. As you can see here, it broke down underneath. Only takes about week number 1, 2, and 3 to break back above. So I'm not really too worried. And you also have a bull trend because the red is over the blue, Tenkan is over Kijun. So you still have a bull trend going, and I'm not really that worried about it. This is also supported by, if you want to look at the Super Ichi, which incorporates the super trend, you still have an uptrend going on here. And price is still above the Super Ichi cloud here. This takes into account the super trend, which takes into account of volume changes and things like that. So far, it's still showing you a bullish trend. So I'm not really worried about, what's going on in terms of Ichimoku Cloud. Those are all my thoughts on Mara. I am still, pretty bullish on it on the longer term, based on a lot of things that I'm seeing with the monthly, especially, again, with the taking Kitchen Cross that happened last month, with the fact that it's kind of trying to bounce with some supports around the volume shelf, around these, around the kitchen, maybe flipping kitchen as Tenkan as support. I can see some higher targets that could meet, at some point over the next couple of months or a few months. I'm pretty bullish here still. I'm not too much worried about the price action of Bitcoin. There's a potential that Bitcoin does fall down because so far it does have a pretty nasty kind of shooting star look. There's a potential Bitcoin can go down and test a weekly, somewhere around here. And I think Mara, if that's the case, I think Mara will probably end up taking a hit, but it might end up testing some of the levels down below here, or even it can test some of the levels down below here in the 16s range, but that would still be a higher low, and the bull trend would still be intact. And if you imagine, it can also test some of the 50 moving averages down here below too, potentially around 14, 15. All these are possibility, although it does do that. Technically you might be getting a little bit more technical damage here. But I'm not sure if it's going to do that because I think it might front ran the Bitcoin drop that we have gotten this week, the last couple of weeks. So I'm not necessarily sure we're necessarily going to get the big giant drop underneath. And we still have plenty of support underneath. So um, I'm not really too much worried about it. Again, the volume shelf support, we're right at one right now, around 19 or so. There's still plenty of support down below, so I'm not really that worried. Whereas the upside, I'm seeing potentially 40. So to me, the risk reward ratio over the next few months seems to be pretty decent. I'm going to stay in it. Thank you for listening to me. Have a good one. Bye.